Hello and welcome to Heartbeat. This week, Catherine brings us a compelling interview with Kaya Jones, formerly of the Pussycat Dolls. William brings us a roundup of news from home and abroad. And Peter gives us his viewpoint on the death of the upbeat pop song.
Grammy-winning artist Kaya Jones, born in Toronto, first rose to fame as a member of the Pussycat Dolls. Discovered at 13 by R. Kelly and signed to Capitol Records as a teen, she eventually left the group in 2005 and used her platform to speak about the traumas she faced in the music industry, featured in the HBO's Fallen Idols, and her experience with abortion, which she now openly addresses to help others heal. She won a Grammy for Let It Be Love, a collaboration with Christian artist Jason Crabb, and has since racked up millions of streams across Spotify, Apple Music and more. And she joins me today. Thank you for joining me, Kaya. Can you share with our viewers a little bit about your background?
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm a recording artist first and foremost. I was a member of the Pussycat Dolls. I left the Pussycat Dolls. I now sing Christian music. I won a Grammy singing Christian music for the Lord. We just released my first Christian album, which took about 4 years in total to write all of that. And I'm very vocal about being conservative, being pro-life, being a believer, all of the things. So that's a little bit about me. I also own a streaming company, and it focuses on helping people know more about the Lord.
Yeah. Fantastic. And during your time, you've left the Pussycat Dolls, and you have a personal story as well that you share when you tour about abortion. Can you unpack that a little bit for our viewers here in the UK?
Well, I mean, I've just been very vocal about the abortions I've had, the pressures of the industry, which is not just I wouldn't just say the music industry. I think it's the entertainment industry in general. I tend to go all over the world and share my journey and how that has greatly affected me, just in hopes that younger women can actually hear it from someone who's been there, done that, and maybe make a better choice in their own decision.
Yeah. Exactly. And what were some of the pressures or circumstances going on in your life and career at the time?
Well, I mean, it's a very selfish industry to begin with, right? So everything is very for your job or for self, right? So the pressure is that you can't have it all at the same time. And so it's understood right away, like you have to be a sex symbol, or you need to be available. You can't actually, the married child look is not sellable. And that's kind of what I fell into believing. I think like a lot of young women today, you know, that you hear what pop culture, what culture is telling you, you know, like it's my body, my choice, or it doesn't matter, it's just a clump of cells, or, you know, it doesn't mean anything. And I fell for it. I fell for all of those, you know, things, not just the pressure in the industry of being told you can't get pregnant, you can't have the child, but also just culturally, I fell for all of the misconceptions of like, you know, my body, my choice. It's not going to mean anything. And, you know, when you're ready, you'll have a family when you're ready, you know, but by the time you're my age and you're childless, it hits you like, oh, wow. So that God was having me ready. And I was listening to culture and listening to industry and not listening to him. So I think it's important for young women, you know, it's a blip of time when you're in that moment of like, oh, this is going to affect my life in such, you're thinking of it in such a negative way. But if I could go back, I would do it completely differently.
And was there a moment that you realized the choice wasn't truly yours then?
I think after going to Hebraic Bible College and spending a lot of time with God, I realized that he had a plan all along. Even though I had a big part in those decisions, I know that he's using it now for his glory. So I've accepted what my choices, the outcomes have been. But there have been many moments of aha through it, right? So the initial moment of knowing when to walk away from the secular music world because it was really wicked. And spoke about that with two young girls that were in the front row at the show, that were like excited to see me. And they were like, oh my gosh, mommy, she's a Pussycat doll. They were just so excited. And it really checked me in my spirit because I, at the time, was losing my child. So it was kind of like out of the mouth of a child, like looking up to this. And I felt so gutted. Like there was nothing about me that was to look up to. And that was kind of the beginning of God consistently helping me process the decisions that I was making and making poor decisions. But it really took until going to school and not even my first baptismal. It was doing like the proper deliverance, a baptismal that I had when I, became Messianic Jew. So I'm Jewish who believes in Jesus. I know everyone's like always very enamored by that. Like, whoa, what does that mean? And so I had to go through a conversion process, and that's part of repenting and repenting for generational curses, repenting for things that I didn't even think I needed to. And then that revealed, doing my own homework with the Lord, ended up revealing that my grandfather actually, in the work that he did as a surgeon, performed abortion. And so it ended up coming out in our family because my family in the process was being healed by the Lord as I was doing the work with him. It's remarkable when we start to do, it's not just, we think it's just us, like I'm praying, it's just me and him. And it's really for your whole family. And so, so he revealed to my mom, memories that had been really like buried. And she was then able to confront and be honest with me about my grandfather being a surgeon and performing abortions. And I then had an understanding of, generational bloodline curses and how we need to really be in a season of repentance and a humility with God, because it's just a crazy time in this world. We're seeing so much all over the world. And the lies being told to young girls, especially about abortion, is you'll regret it the rest of your life. I've never met a parent that regrets their child, but every girl that I've met who's now post-abortive speaking, we deeply regret our choices. Deeply.
Yeah, I've met so many like that as well. Now, did you ever feel alone in facing that abortion decisions, the abortion decisions that you've made? Or did you have anyone that was anyway pro-life around you?
No. I think that's the hard part too, is that, even if there's just one person in your corner that says you can do it, and I'll be there for you, or and it's proven, and statistically, young women who have that support system, they end up having the baby because they want to have their child. I mean, it's not like they don't want to have their child, but if the male in the picture doesn't want the child and pressures them, or the parents or the family aren't there to help them, it kind of leaves no room. So as believers, as the church, right, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Catholic, we all as a community of believers really need to step in and say, how can we help these young ladies so that they don't have to make these decisions? And it comes down to those facilities, like some of the facilities I saw in Ireland that are really, they're helping the women. Like you can go in and shop, you can get baby clothes, you can get diapers, you can get the things that you need. And those are very expensive items. So those small things, those facilities, to me, I'm so grateful to all of them because I see the work they're doing, and it gives me hope for the youth. There's a better system in place now than there was for me 20 years ago.
And what would you say to a young girl who is in your situation right now? Do you know, that kind of way, who might be considering, an abortion?
I would say, don't do it. I mean, that's the quickest way to say it, is don't do it. I would also say, try to find a facility like what I'm speaking of that do help young women. There are a ton of them all over the world. It's not just in Ireland, it's in America. They're all over the world. And you need a support system. And so I would say if you're in a crossroad and you feel like I don't have a choice, I want you to know you do have a choice. Your baby is going to be your best friend. It's your family. You don't take any of these riches in the world with you. Your family is what we have in heaven. It is a fruit from God Himself to have a child. It is such a blessing to be able to be a woman and to bear a baby in your womb. Do not let the pressures of society make you feel like your life's over. It's not. You can have it all. You can be a working mother. You can be dignified and married and more children, even if you're not at this current time. You may even marry a man who doesn't have a child who wants to be a father. You never know the next part of your story. So I would say pray, ask God what to do, see if there's people around you that will be a support system. And like I said, as someone who's had abortions, I deeply regret not having my children. And I've never met a parent. They'll say, oh, they're tough, or it's been hard, or it's stressful, or I don't get a lot of sleep. But I've never met a parent who says, I regret my child, ever, ever. And so don't make a quick decision that will haunt you. And as someone who's I've had them, and I'm telling you, when you wake up out of it, it feels like someone took something that belonged to you your whole life, like someone took a kidney or a liver. It is that strong of a feeling as a woman. And it haunts you until you go to be with the Lord. It's not something that goes away. So even though it may be right now, you think it's going to, now I get my life under control. Be advised that 40% of women who've had abortion end up having suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety after the fact, PTSD. It's very real. And I've met with so many women who have suffered from it. So don't do it.
Yeah.
Do not do it.
Wise words. And how has your healing journey evolved over time?
It's been hard. I think initially I had a lot of guilt. I think that's the first part, is you kind of go through, what have I done? Guilt, wanting to try and, even in the process, wanting to reverse it, but not having the ability to. I mean, I went through that with the last abortion. I wanted it to stop. I didn't want it to go through, but I had already taken the medicine. It was already, and now they actually have a pill that can reverse it, which is phenomenal. There is actually a pill that within the first, I believe, 12 to 24 hours of taking the first pill, it can save a life. It can actually stop the abortion, that if you're doing it through the pill. So that's, definitely the journey has been, it's been a process, and you don't really get over it. It's something that haunts you, like I said, forever. It's not something that goes away. And this is why I've felt the need to share, because I don't want young women to not see themselves in this space as someone who's a pop artist who now sings for the Lord, who is edgy and different. I want them to see you can have regrets and have all the things that the world tells you is like so perfect. And it's not, it's a lie. When I look at my friends that are mothers, I totally wish I had gone down that road. It's so much more rewarding. My best friends that have children, I'm constantly in awe of how incredible they are as mothers, and how much that's part of their life and their identity as a woman, and how beautiful that is. It's like, when you do this, you're taking part of your identity as a woman and you're turning into this very masculine energy of like, I'm more of a male, like in the thought, like I don't have to be nurturing. I don't have to be a mother. And it's like, but that's what we were made to do. We were made to do the coolest thing on the planet, which is to give birth. Men can't do it. And what an honor, right? That we get to do that. So it's been a hard process, and it's not easy. So my advice is definitely don't
do it.
Don't do what I did.
And are there emotions that have surprised you years later? Because so often women who've had an abortion would be like, oh, it didn't affect me. It's a year ago, it didn't affect me. But like 5 years, 10 years down the line, are certain emotions popping up again? They haunt
Definitely.
you.
Oh yeah. There was actually a point with the last abortion that I actually had weight gain in my abdomen because my body, for some reason, I think still thought I was pregnant. It was like chambered. Um, it is a very long standing journey. And yes, you think about what could have been. I actually heard from the last, the gentleman that I was with that was part of our child, and he actually has deep regrets as well. And asking me to forgive him, feeling like he pushed me to that, which he did. Um, and that's still, there's healing going on there. I think we don't even talk about how men feel, right? But there are a lot of men that have paid for it or pressured their girlfriend, and they even feel regret because it's your baby. You're the parent of a dead child. That's a very real feeling. And not being able to go anywhere, like, in grief, like I don't have a headstone to go to mourn my children. Um, it affects your life. It affects your life forever.
So what would you say then, for those who are in the creative and entertainment industry, music industry, what advice would you give to them? Is it worse probably in there? Are they extremely pro-abortion? What advice would you give them?
It's definitely, I would definitely say now it's better. It's getting better. We are now talking about it. I think it's getting better, right? We're talking about it. I mean, Halsey has spoken about how she was pressured into having an abortion and then having to go perform, right? There's been more conversation. Adele has spoken about, wanting her baby. And yeah, I think when you start to see that women are having this discussion, whether it's Kim Kardashian or Kylie Kardashian, and they're all, or Kylie Jenner, they're all talking about being a mom, and you're hearing more. It's more now culturally accepted, I think, than it was in my time in the music industry. It was very like pressure based. Not to say that doesn't still exist. It does. It's just we've gotten to a point where you're seeing women do it all. And I think that's exciting because we can still be a working mom. We don't have, it's not like you die, but it was the work. If anything, you get more life. You know what I mean? You break, no, but I think the way we treated it for such a period of time, and then the misconception of what we're feeding into young women, the my body, my choice, or it's just a clump of cells. It's such a bad thing to do. When I speak in colleges and I see the young women, and the pain on their face, I can always tell the ones that have gone through abortion because there's hurt, there's actual anger, and they double down on it, right? Like when I came to speak at your rally, your march for life, I noticed that there was a lot of anger with the people protesting against us, and yeah, their parents of dead children. There's an anger there. There's definitely a demonic energy there that's really sad. And if anything, we should be in prayer for them. That their heart is softened, that they repent, and that they recognize that life is the better way, because they will be the best advocates for us in the pro-life movement, are those that have gone through it.
Yeah, and have you any positive stories from your experience of touring and sharing your testimony, sharing your story?
Yes.
Oh, please, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. Oh, one of the best ones was a young lady. She heard my story and she reached out. I mean, I get thousands of messages that are just amazing. Men, women that share, that need prayer, that they have this pain, and you can feel the burden lift off of them when they just share their testimony privately with someone who understands, who will never share it. But one individual, I'm sharing it because it's a beautiful story. So she messaged me. She really didn't know what to do. And I told her just that. I said, I can't tell you what to do, but as someone who didn't have my children, I deeply regret it. So don't do it. If I can tell you one thing, don't do it. And so she decided to keep the baby. And the day he was born, she sent me a photo. And 2 years later, she sent me another photo. And I think the baby's now 6. And she now goes around the country speaking for life with him. And one of the last messages she sent me, so she sends pictures with, her and a priest that she's speaking at this Catholic event for pro-life. It was amazing. And I was just so excited to see this with this little boy. And she always reminds me, she's just like, Kaya, thank you so much. He's my best friend. I can't imagine him not being here. Thank you. So that to me is one of the best outcomes. And when you get messages like that, but that's one I can share because she now speaks about it. So, but there's definitely been some that didn't happen that way. They didn't take my advice. They decided to go the other direction. So, but when you hear those moments where they do listen, it's a good day.
It's a phenomenal story, really heartwarming. And what are practical things that we can do then for women as pro-lifers?
I think the biggest thing is to come with more of an understanding, a humble heart, not so much judgment, because they already know they're wrong. They already know. We already know. We already know. We already feel like we're going to hell. We already feel like we're evil. We already feel all those things. So just reminding them God loves them and has their baby. And it will be the first thing that greets them when they make their way to heaven if they repent and give their life to the Lord. Making it more about the healing that they need and praying for them, less about the condemnation, because I think that's the biggest part. I think making it more about the healing aspect and really showing that we're extending an olive branch, that we're coming from a place of, we're not trying to judge you, but we're trying to give you an understanding of what you can't see. And there's a reason why you can't see it. Because the world has done a good job lying to women that we shouldn't be moms, that we shouldn't be wives, that we should just be in the workforce. And I think that's, how long did it take society to condition us women that was a bad thing? When you think about it, like staying home and being with your baby.
It's, being sold as that it's horrific.
How did we convince young women that is a bad thing? That is a gift like no other. I mean, I love watching Nara Smith on like her TikTok and stuff where she's like having babies and doing it gracefully and looking so beautiful. I think, we just need to be more open to talking to those that are on the other end. Yeah. So it definitely is one of the things that, we need to make it more understandable that we're not coming from a place of judgment, talking to them, talking to women. Why are you, pro-choice? Like, what about that is the selling point? And then also young men, like, hey, men become, boys become men when they become a dad. They really do. And I think that we shouldn't let young boys have such an easy get off the hook. Like, you know what? Look, if you're going to do grown-up things come with it. How that works.
And
that means
finally then, as my last question is, you mentioned it at the Rally for Life, you said that women date their self-esteem. Can you unpack that? Because I think there's some women watching maybe who are dating or single, or maybe even some men who are watching this, but in regards to relationships, because this is how, when people settle, I'm sure the outcome is
we do,
abortion. So please speak to that.
We date our self-esteem really is something that I recognized after my first abortion. I didn't think anything really changed. I mean, I felt like something personal was taken from me, but I then became harder. Like I became more tough, and like, now I was willing to do basically whatever it takes for my career. So I became kind of hardened. Like my heart was hardened. And I think that's actually the hardest part is, understanding, like unpacking just that is how can we be better in a society if we're not looking out for the most vulnerable, which is the unborn. So for me personally, I truly feel like we need to be more understanding, try to reach across the aisle on all the different levels. But yeah, I became really hardened by the first abortion, so much so that I didn't want to emotionally open up to men. I became very controlling in that regard. But then in the same breath, I then chose men that were abusive. because I didn't love myself. Now, when people say, oh, you have to love yourself, it's like, if you're willing to kill your baby, you don't love yourself. You don't love yourself. And you don't love yourself because it's a piece of you. It really, really is. It's half of your DNA. It's half of it's your mom, your dad, your sisters, your cousins. It's going to look like you. It's going to look like your family because it's your family. And when you do that, you become hardened. That's the first thing. And then you don't think you're really valuable. So you pick people that kind of solidify that solidify that you're not valuable, and then they treat you bad. And you tolerate it because you already feel bad because you did something you shouldn't have done. And so it's this perpetual cycle of choosing abusive partners. And it led me to being with abusive partners that were physically abusive with me. It led to me being volatile relationships. It led to me being promiscuous. It led to me being drinking, drugs, those things to kind of numb the pain of what I had done. You're doing those things because you think boys are going to like you or all of those things, but you're actually doing those things because you did something you shouldn't have done. And so it actually revealed to me. And so I don't do drugs anymore. I don't drink. Like, as I got healing from the Lord, as He delivered me from my demons that I had, I recognized that I had a lot of self-hatred, and that stemmed from making my first abortion at 16 years old, making a really horrific choice and I didn't realize that was it. I thought it was all the other things. It didn't hit me. It did not hit me until I started speaking about this and doing the homework with God that I really understood, I really hated myself. And I perpetually put myself in situations that validated what I felt. So when you don't have any self-esteem, you pick horrible people. You don't really see that you're a treasure. You're a diamond from literally God. You are so favored. You are beautiful and well-made and perfect. These are the things that God says in the scriptures. You don't believe those things, right? Because if you did, you would not sleep around. You would be like, no. And if you're not marrying me, I'm not having sex with you. Absolutely not. You would hold yourself at a higher standard. And by the way, men respect you for it. Don't think that they don't. They don't want to marry the girl that sleeps around. As much as I know you think that's what they want, you could be in a relationship with you could be in a relationship with a man for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. He doesn't marry you. And then you and him break up, and then he marries a girl within 6 months. And you're like, how come? Because she didn't sell herself short. Don't sell yourself short. You're so much of a precious, human being that's worth so much. So stand up for your value. Know that you're beautiful and favored and God loves you, and therefore you deserve the best. And that means waiting for the right person and not, I don't have a boyfriend. People are like, are you married? No. I don't sleep around. Unless I meet the right person who's devoted to the Lord the way that I am, that's it. So that's me, And I know people are always like, really, Kai? And I'm like, yeah, I really decided to love myself and value my worth. And if they are not on that level to understand that I value my worth, then it's not from the Lord.
Yeah.
And then I don't want it.
Exactly. Well said. I think, your words are going to bring a lot of life to women, and it's a great reminder for them to know their worth and not choose or pick a man from a place of wounding, really, but to strive for that healing. So thank you so much, Kaya, for joining me. It was really such a joy to talk to you, and we could chat for ages. But for now, this is great, and we'll speak to you soon, please God.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaya. Thank you.
New analysis from the UK's Department of Health and Social Care suggests that up to 400 baby girls may have been aborted in England and Wales for sex selection reasons over a 5-year period, sparking strong concern from pro-life campaigners. The findings, based on a statistically significant imbalance in the ratio of boys to girls born to Indian parents in England and Wales between 2017 and 2021, have reignited debate about sex-selective abortion. Under current laws, abortion solely on the basis of fetal sex is not a lawful ground for termination and is illegal in England and Wales. A government spokesperson stressed the government's position was that sex-selective abortion will not be tolerated and that anyone with evidence of the practice should report it to police. Despite this legal prohibition, campaigners, including Baroness Eaton, argue that the 1967 Abortion Act's lack of an explicit ban on sex selection has created ambiguity that can be exploited. Baroness Eaton has called for an explicit legal prohibition on sex-selective abortion to be included in the ongoing crime and policing bill, warning that the current situation has led to hundreds of missing baby girls in the UK. The report's findings underscore the need for legislative clarity and stronger protections for unborn girls. Without such reform, cultural preferences and prenatal testing could increasingly drive terminations based on the sex of an unborn child, a trend which represents a serious and ethical and demographic concern. Shockingly, the British Pregnancy Advisory Service, or BPAS, which carries out 110,000 abortions a year, suggested that aborting a baby on the basis of sex is not illegal, despite government advice explicitly stating it is against the law. SPUC CEO John Deegan commented on the BPAS claims.
It's frankly appalling that BPAS should claim that the law on female infanticide is silent on the matter. These revelations highlight the hidden reality that unborn girls are tragically vulnerable. BPAS are the last people who should be commenting on this. They carried out almost half the abortions in the UK and had an income of £64 million last year, of which £63 million came from the NHS. This is why BPAS wants all barriers to abortion to be abolished, and it is why we believe that the entire abortion industry in this country is what should be abolished.
The Department of Health guidance that was issued to doctors in 2014 states, "Abortion on the grounds of gender alone is illegal. Gender is not itself a lawful ground under the Abortion Act." According to the Times of India, an 18-year-old woman in Noida, Uttar Pradesh, India, has died after taking abortion pills allegedly supplied by her cousin, police say, in a tragic case that highlights the dangers of abortion pills. The incident has prompted police action and renewed concern about the risks posed by unsupervised drug-induced abortions. According to police reports, the young woman was in a relationship with her cousin and became pregnant. She then took abortion medication that her cousin allegedly gave her. After her condition began to deteriorate, she was taken to a district hospital on December 18th and later died on December 23rd. Investigations have revealed that the victim was suffering from anemia, a condition that can increase the risk of complications from abortion drugs. Authorities have registered a case under a law which deals with causing miscarriage, and the accused has been arrested. Her father filed the complaint, underscoring the devastating impact the incident has had on their family. The tragedy underscores the dangers of self-administered abortion pills and unregulated access to termination drugs, especially among young women, which remain widely available despite the fact that medical professionals stress the pills carry known risks. In a move celebrated by pro-life advocates across the United States, Puerto Rico Governor Jennifer Gonzalez Colon has signed Senate Bill 504 into law, amending the territory's civil code to recognise unborn children as natural persons from the moment of conception. The measure, approved on December 21st, 2025, marks a significant symbolic step in the ongoing effort to affirm the dignity and legal status of preborn human beings in law. The legislation formally establishes that every human being is a natural person, including the conceived child at any stage of gestation within the mother's womb. It does this by adjusting the civil code's language to reflect that legal personality begins at fertilization, aligning civil law with pro-life perspectives that human life starts at conception. Pro-life leaders hailed the law as a landmark affirmation of life, with the National Right to Life Committee describing Puerto Rico's action as among the most robust legal recognitions of the unborn in any US jurisdiction. NRLC President Carol Tobias said the law reflects a deep respect for life and provides a foundation for a culture of life where the inherent dignity of the preborn is acknowledged under law. Although the new personhood recognition does not immediately alter existing abortion statutes, abortion remains legal in the territory under current interpretation. Pro-life advocates argue it sets a powerful legal and moral precedent that may influence future legislation and judicial interpretation. They see this legal recognition as a vital first step toward greater protections for unborn children and an important counterbalance to abortion policy debates elsewhere in the United States. Supporters also emphasize the cultural impact of the law, saying it aligns legal language with scientific and ethical views that human life begins at conception and strengthens respect for the most vulnerable. Puerto Rico's action is viewed as a model and encouragement for similar efforts worldwide. Pro-life campaigners are expressing alarm after Nordic governments were identified as among the most active promoters of abortion liberalisation and gender ideology at the recent United Nations Universal Periodic Review session. According to a briefing from the Centre for Family and Human Rights, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway and Sweden accounted for a disproportionate share of recommendations pressuring other nations to loosen abortion laws and expand so-called sexual and reproductive health and rights policies. Of the 35 instances in which UN member states were urged to revise their abortion laws during the review of 13 countries, Nordic governments made 12 such recommendations. Iceland, in particular, was the most persistent, generating around 20% of all abortion-related pressure from all 193 UN members. The Nordic delegation called for abortion to be legalised, decriminalised, and made more accessible, and pushed for limits on conscientious objection by healthcare providers, moves that many groups, including SPUC, say undermine national sovereignty and respect for life. On other fronts, the Nordic nations also led advocacy for sweeping changes on sexual orientation and gender identity, including urging countries to adopt same-sex marriage and self-identification gender recognition policies. These recommendations, which CFAM describes as part of gender ideology, were frequently targeted at developing nations with more traditional family structures. Pro-life experts argue that the Nordic bloc's influence at the UN reflects a broader cultural shift in their foreign policy priorities, pointing to decades of generous funding for agencies like the United Nations Population Fund and UN Women, which promote SRHR agendas globally. They warn that such pressure risks overwhelming nations that have maintained pro-life laws and protections for the unborn. As the debate over abortion and family policy intensifies on the world stage, advocates for life are calling on UN member states to resist external pressure and uphold the inherent dignity of all human life in their legal systems. Pro-life voices in Ireland and around the world are celebrating a narrow but pivotal victory after a controversial proposal to extend abortion up to birth was defeated in the Irish Parliament by a single vote. The outcome, announced late last week, marks a significant moment in the ongoing debate over the legal status of unborn children in Ireland. The motion, which had been put forward in the Dáil Éireann, would have removed critical protections for unborn children later in pregnancy and opened the door to abortions right up to birth. Pro-life lawmakers and campaigners had warned that it would have represented one of the most extreme abortion laws in Europe if passed. However, on a razor-thin margin, parliamentarians rejected the measure, a decision hailed as a triumph for the pro-life movement. National Right to Life Committee President Carol Tobias praised the Dáil's decision, noting that protecting unborn human life at all stages is a moral duty and a sign of a culture that values every human being. She emphasised that the defeat of the proposal underscores the growing public unease with legal frameworks that permit late-term abortion without sufficient safeguards for the unborn. Pro-life groups in Ireland mobilised widely in the lead-up to the vote, urging citizens to contact their representatives and express their concerns about extending abortion access. Supporters of the campaign stressed the importance of compassionate care for mothers whilst defending the right to life of the unborn, a message that resonated with many voters and lawmakers. Campaigners also highlighted that Ireland's journey toward defending life has been hard-won in recent years, particularly after repealing the Eighth Amendment in 2018. They say the narrow defeat is not only a victory, but a reminder that every vote matters in safeguarding the most vulnerable. I'm William Curry, and this was SPUCTV News, bringing to light what others hide.
In a previous Viewpoint, I gave my view on increasing dependence on antidepressants and tranquilizers in Western countries. I pointed out that the more secular and atheistic a country becomes, the higher its rates of dependence on chemical and pharmaceutical products and substances. I revealed that 32% of French people used such products on a regular or occasional basis, making the French the world's top consumers of antidepressants. But apart from leaving a country wallowing in a medicated, secularised stupor, does abandoning religion in the traditional family have any other effects on a country? Well, the answer, of course, is yes. But you might be surprised at some of the other things that happen in societies which abandon religion, abandon the family, and stop valuing life. I'm Peter Kearney, and this is Viewpoint. Over the course of the last 60 years, Western societies have undergone some seriously significant social and cultural changes. Total fertility rates, or births per woman, is a standard measure of family size. In 1965, the average number of children per woman in the UK and the USA was 2.9, well above the replacement rate of 2.1, which is the average number of children per woman needed for a population to replace itself from one generation to the next without migration. To be self-sustaining, in other words, sustainable. Paradoxically, we've become completely obsessed with sustainability in recent years while completely abandoning the concept when it comes to our own population. But that's probably another topic. Let's get back to the birth rates. So those average rates of 2.9 children per woman in the mid-60s are long gone. Today, those rates in both countries, US and UK, are 1.6 children per woman, almost half what they were and well below replacement level. In some Western countries, it's much worse. Recent estimates suggest that this year, Italy's total fertility rate will be 1.1 children per woman. We've given up on the future. That's the only conclusion you can draw from these numbers. In the 1960s, in the UK, the average age for men to marry was 24 and for women 22. Today, it's 33 and 31. That's almost 10 fewer years to have children and a significantly lower likelihood of having them at all. Together with divorce rates, which have skyrocketed, and relationship breakdown in general, it's a dismal picture. In the UK today, over 25% of adults describe themselves as depressed or unhappy. Surveys in other Western countries suggest figures as high as 29%. Similarly, up to 40% of adults in the UK report symptoms of loneliness or isolation. Separately, drug use continues to be a significant problem in both the UK and the USA and across the Western world, exacerbated by the widespread availability of increasingly high-strength cannabis, where its use among young people leads to long-term psychosis and permanent mental impairment. Meanwhile, the UK's National Crime Agency has pointed to increasing use of substances such as ketamine and cocaine, with record consumption and rises in drug-related harms and deaths. Glasgow currently has the highest rate of drug-related deaths in Europe. So when societies give up on themselves and on the future and choose instead to depopulate their countries out of existence and drug themselves up to the eyeballs, what else happens? Well, some of the changes which take place are interesting and depressing. Dr. Maurizio Martins is a postdoctoral researcher at the Department of Cognition, Emotion and Methods in Psychology at the University of Vienna. In a recent presentation, he posed the question, why are movies seemingly getting dumber? His presentation explored how psychological stress, socioeconomic factors and cultural shifts influence movie complexity. Using data from 16,000 Hollywood films, he examined whether declining cognitive engagement and societal stress were behind the simplification. His findings reveal that our ability to process complex narratives may be eroding, and this could have serious consequences for society's problem-solving capabilities. And that's pretty worrying. But it's in the area of popular music that Dr. Martin's research is really fascinating and really dispiriting. He investigated the dynamics of English lyrics in Western pop music over 5 decades, using a wide set of lyrics descriptors, including lyrical complexity, structure, emotion, and popularity. And he found that pop music lyrics have become simpler and easier to comprehend over time. Not only has the lyrical complexity of lyrics decreased, but in addition, he observed that the emotions described in those pop song lyrics have become more negative and more personal over the last 5 decades. In other words, song lyrics in popular music have dumbed down and become more depressing. Now, I'd have been inclined to blame the bleak and monotonal warblings of Taylor Swift for all of this. She has, after all, made a fortune by releasing the same angst-ridden song under multiple different titles for literally years. But it turns out the trend towards downbeat and gloomy music predates even her soul-destroying songbook. Lyrics like, "I'm miserable, feel my pain," which I've just made up, could be a Taylor Swift or an Adele or a Billie Eilish song, as could, "He left me and I'm going to kill myself," or "I left him and he's going to kill himself," or "That's the last time I'll ever kill myself," or, well, you get the picture. They're all bleak. The University of Vienna study suggests the shift in tone mirrors a broad 50-year drift towards sadder, more angst-ridden and less sophisticated pop lyrics. The researchers analysed more than 20,000 songs that appeared on America's Billboard Hot 100 between 1973 and 2023. And their conclusion was stark. Yes, songwriters have always written about broken hearts and breakup, but the emotional mood of chart music has darkened significantly since the 1970s. According to the Times newspaper reporting on the study, negativity has risen, optimism has become scarcer, and lyrical complexity has ebbed. Meanwhile, vocabulary linked to stress has surged. As the Times puts it, where once Whitney Houston gleefully belted out, "I want to dance with somebody who loves me," more recent hits have tended towards self-scrutiny and unease. Olivia Rodrigo confessing, "I'm so insecure," or Adele lamenting, "I feel like my life is flashing by and all I can do is watch and cry." Wonderful. What's not to like? And every album comes with its own razor blade. The researchers scrutinised the lyrics in 3 ways. They counted how often words linked to stress, such as pressure, fight, or alone, appeared. Then they measured the overall sentiment of a lyric. Was it positive or negative? And they fed the lyrics into a compression algorithm. If a song compressed easily, it was judged to have simpler, more repetitive language. Overall, the results show a decades-long descent into gloomier, more neurotic and less complicated pop songs. So, the dumbed-down, depressive, dismal dirge has caught the mood of the dumbed-down, depressive, dismal lives of its listeners. And why wouldn't it? In the early 1970s, humans had only recently walked on the moon. Concorde was flying at supersonic speed across the Atlantic. ABBA won the Eurovision Song Contest with the ridiculously upbeat song Waterloo. The pill hadn't become free on the NHS yet. Roe v. Wade had barely begun to affect US society. Our abortion culture had hardly started, and the first colour TVs were appearing in our living rooms. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat and X didn't exist. And people were happy. Very happy. They got married. They had families. They cherished and celebrated children, and they wanted to listen to music that matched their mood. Our wealth and freedom in the West, relative to others, has in so many ways made us miserable and depressed. And that gloom is mirrored in our music. According to a Gallup World Poll, countries with the highest laughter and enjoyment scores include Costa Rica, Mexico, and Brazil. Interestingly, local and regional musicians outsell international artists like Taylor Swift and Adele in these countries. Spotify's top artist list in Brazil is overwhelmingly made up of Brazilian artists. The gloommongers don't sell as well in those countries as they do here. And that's not just for language reasons. The biggest selling album in Mexico ever was Michael Jackson's Thriller. So English language pop does sell. It's just that in Costa Rica, Mexico and Brazil, they're not that keen on buying songs about doom, gloom and depression. Why is that? Why do they favour upbeat, life-affirming music? Could it be connected to the fact that in Costa Rica, abortion is almost completely illegal? In Mexico, abortion is only legal up to 12 weeks, and in Brazil, abortion is illegal except in very limited cases. All those societies are poorer than we are, but significantly happier, and their music is not nearly as gloomy. Maybe when you start killing the most defenceless and vulnerable members of your society, it's hard to find anything happy to sing about.
That's all we have time for this week. If you are enjoying our content, please like, comment and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions or topics we should cover, please email us at the address on the screen or in the description below. Thanks for watching.